Action! Welcome to another amazing episode of the Action Podcast. We are on episode 75, and today we got a nice docket of movies here. The number one movie that we're going to rate is The Creator. The second film will be Saw X. Is it it's not the 10th actual film in it, is it?
It's the 10th.
Oh, jeez.
But I don't know if the Chris Rock version is included in that 10.
Yeah,
there was a Chris Rock spinoff. I don't know if it was part of the 10 or not. I'll do some research, Paul.
Yeah, do some research on reeling off these movies. Third film is Reptile, which is on Netflix now, streaming. And lastly, it will be Flora and Son, which is on Apple+TV Plus minus. So with that, Pete, let's get into our number one film, The Creator. Like we mentioned last week, our friend Shayna was able to see this in the premiere. She got invited to the premiere. I tried to get tickets as well. I did not make it. So I had to see it like a commoner in the movie theater.
Yeah.
This movie is directed by
Gareth Edwards.
Gareth Edwards, who also did Rogue One, which is, spoiler alert, my favorite Star Wars.
Arguably one of the greatest Star Wars movies ever made.
Yeah. And then in this movie, just a couple stats here while we before we get into our review. So this got a 7.2 on IMDb, which is a very, very solid score. And budget, I believe, was $80 million.
$100 million, and it exceeded expectations visually.
Well, no,
I think it was about $100 million.
It says 80 here.
Oh.
100 million would have been, I think, with marketing.
I think 100 million.
It's 100 million with marketing. But it says budget $80 million. This domestically made 14 million, which is a little underwhelming. But worldwide gross 32. So this movie's got a lot to do to make up for it. But that doesn't mean, Pete, that people should not go see this film. What are your thoughts?
I think you should definitely go see this film because right off the bat, everyone that you go and see who reviews movies, they're going to tell you how visually stunning this movie is, and they're absolutely correct.
Yeah, for sure.
This movie is stunning visually. I have issues with the story itself. I think it played out 90% really well. It was a great story. I thought the acting was really well. I found myself confused at very specific moments in this movie where a scene was happening and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're in a new scene and there was never a transition between those two scenes. It almost very much relied on you as an audience member to get into this story and to just follow it as opposed to let me show you everything that's happening.
Yeah.
So it was a very unique way of telling a story. I need to see it again. So, I loved this movie. I thought it was really good. It's not top 5 at all, although it had that potential. If I see it a second time, there's a potential for it to be
top 10.
One of those movies that I really, really appreciate this year. Because I had that, it impacted me in such a way, but I feel like I missed something. I feel like I blinked and I missed something vital. But then when I would go back and look at stuff, maybe I didn't miss anything. So I don't know. It was a really bizarre movie to kind of experience for the first time.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I liked about it was it was definitely kind of a new adventure. Right away, you really get into it. Again, I think very similar to like Rogue One. The camera work, the music, and just the scenery, all that kind of really works into its favor.
And they don't waste time.
So in the very beginning, again, very Rogue One-ish. You get kind of right into the story, and I really enjoyed that.
Boom, something happens, and you gotta go.
Yeah, and John David Washington, of course. I absolutely love him as an actor. And
he crushed.
Yeah, he was great in this. And so right away, I was super captivated by it. I'm kind of with you, Pete, now. I have to admit, guys, because I don't like to lie here on this podcast, but I did doze off at the very end. I do tend to see the very late shows, and I'm up pretty early, so that can sometimes affect my movie viewing. I also lost my wallet at the same time, so not a good experience overall. But regardless, I enjoyed the movie, and I definitely recommend seeing it. I'm probably actually going to see it tonight again, and really kind of gather my thoughts, but I definitely say check this out. Again, if you like Rogue One, throw out the Star Wars element, but if you like Rogue One and how it's made and how it's structured, I think you'll like this film. What's another good comp?
Rogue One.
Yeah, good.
Thank you. You can't put me on the spot like that.
I'm trying to think what's something else like this. Probably should have done a prep.
Probably should have done a prep. But let's talk about Washington. Let's talk about John David Washington, because you've seen him before. You've seen him in Black Klansman. You've seen him in Tenet. You've seen him in Amsterdam.
What was the first thing that he was in, though?
All three of those movies crushed.
The first thing he was in was Ballers. I don't know if you guys remember, ever check that out. It was starring The Rock. But he was in Ballers. That's where I first got introduced to him as an actor. I didn't even know he was Denzel Washington's son. He kind of sounded like him, but you don't really think about it. You don't just, anybody named Washington's Denzel's son, you just don't make that, leap right away.
Right.
And then somewhere I heard it, and I'm like, oh yeah, he is very Denzel-ish. Definitely has the voice and the persona.
All right. Okay.
He's got that little, yeah.
However, his first role was Malcolm X. He was the student in Harlem Classroom.
Nice.
1992.
Very cool.
So, yeah, Ballers was years and years later on. But this guy came in and he crushed this movie. He is a lead actor in every sense of the word, and he needs to continue this work. I thought that the little girl that played the robot, the weapon,
yes.
Madeleine Voyles, she was
excellent,
heart-wrenching. Like, you felt everything that she was feeling when she was, without spoiling the movie, when she was devastated. You felt every moment of that devastation, and you were right there with her. And to be honest, I thought it was a boy when I saw the previews. I didn't know that this was a little girl, and I was happy to see that. And a very sneaky performance in this movie was Allison Janney, who is one of the best actresses that is around today.
Yeah.
And she's done a range of acting performances. This was something completely different. This was her avatar. This was her bad guy in the Avatar movies. Like, this was her moment to shine. And I thought that she came across as somebody that was both very sensitive at the beginning and heartless and awful at the end.
Yeah.
And I thought she did an amazing job. Allison Janney did a great job. This was a good movie. You need to go see this movie, especially in the theaters, because of the visuals, the sound, the music, the experience itself. It's something that is worth it to see in the theaters itself. Yeah,
I would almost going back to the IMDb rating. I would say it's slightly on the lower side. That's probably a good average, but I would even give this an 8. I think
I'd have to see it again.
I have to see it again, but I'm pretty sure I think it's an 8.
Yeah, I mean there's bits of confusion. So when you go into this movie, just pay attention. Don't be on your phones. Don't be talking to your friends or your family or whoever. Just pay attention, because I feel like there's split-second moments that if you miss it, you lose a piece of something, and eventually you kind of get lost. That's what happened to me anyway. So just pay attention, because this is a really stellar movie.
Awesome. So 2 recommends on that one, people. So definitely go check that out. It should be out in theaters for a little bit. So there's not a ton of heavy hitters coming up.
Yeah.
That should just absolutely knock out this genre.
No, you should be good.
I think this will last till about Dune, until about when Dune comes out. So check it out. I feel like it's going to have a steady, hopefully word of mouth will increase its box office.
Yeah.
So now we're going to jump to Saw X, the latest installment in the Saw series, starring Tobin Bell.
I just through my research found out that the Chris Rock version was number 9, so this is actually the number 10 movie in the Saw series.
Awesome.
Continue.
And fun fact: how many actual Saws have you seen?
I've seen probably 7 of the 10.
Oh snap! Okay.
Saw movies.
I've only seen 1. Spoiler alert.
Oh.
So
yeah. I've seen them. I've seen the majority of them.
I didn't watch any of them before this. Usually I like to do that, but I didn't really have the time. And so I was actually kind of curious. I kind of felt blind. But then once the movie started getting into it, I was like, oh, okay, I remember the premise. So I don't think it's important.
This is a very interesting movie. This is an interesting movie to see for the first time, because the way that this one's done is so unique.
I think it would have been amazing to watch for the first time
compared to the other Saw
Yeah.
movies. Go ahead, Paul. Let's hear your review.
That's gonna go into my review. Just a couple quick numbers on it. Again, budget 13, made 32 worldwide. So this is already a very profitable film.
Only 13 as a budget.
Yeah, that's amazing, by the way. That's
Incredible.
a very... Horror films, this is why it's such a big business.
Reservoir Dogs, I think, was 10.
Yeah, they're so efficient as movies because they're not super expensive, and this was really well done. So I really like this movie. At least I like this movie. I would give this overall a 7.
Go on.
Well, because I'm not a huge like horror guy, and this is more of like the pain and punishment type versus like what was the ones we just seen? The Annabelle, all those
like Annabelle,
which are more like spiritual, spooky kind of thing.
Yeah,
I prefer those over this kind. But with that being said, I absolutely loved the first half of this film. The setup of this film I thought was one of the best in this genre ever. You almost forget you're watching a Saw movie, because at one point I'm just like, I don't even know what Saw is about but I'm loving where this movie is going, and it's such an incredible setup that overall I think it was absolutely worth seeing. The ending and the middle to the end gets right back into the Saw world, but the setup is just really, really great. Pretty unique in terms of how long they spent on the setup.
Yeah. But
I think it was absolutely worth it. And I just absolutely... And again, I forgot a lot of the little points between film to film. I don't want to give that away. I don't think it's necessary. But you don't need to have seen any Saw film like Pete was mentioning. I think that's the beautiful thing of this film. This movie really, really does stand on its own. And that's what makes a very good sequel. And we were even talking about the Expendables last week. What this movie did so well was it introduced new elements of it, but when a movie can stand on by itself and doesn't need the other sequels, it makes it that much more better. But then the adding to the other elements are just extra layers to it, which overall adds to the experience. So I would say in general, check this out. If you're on a fringe horror thing, if you're going with somebody, I think you can manage it. It was entertaining, regardless. So
right. Well, I mean, the thing that I love about this iteration, I mean, Fast X is the 10th installment of a Fast and the Furious movie, and it increasingly gets more and more ridiculous as you watch these films. And the Saw movies were headed in that. And the Saw movies were and the Saw movies were headed in that direction of ridiculousness, where it was, how can we top the latest gadget that is going to actually destroy somebody and make you cringe and want to vomit everywhere? The director, Kevin Greutert, the reason why I love this movie...
You nailed that one.
Thank you. He was the editor of every Saw movie from the very inception of this franchise. So he knows this franchise. He knows this IP. He's lived it. He's breathed it. As you know, as an editor, you're a storyteller. You're immersed in this world to the point of you probably understand it better than the director in some cases. So in this film, he was able to take a movie that was very cringe-worthy at time. I mean, you still get the elements of, oh my God, I can't watch, and I'm very tense, and I'm going to vomit because that's really horrible. If that was happening to me, I would die. But there is such a massive amount of story. There's a massive amount of heart in this movie to an extent. You are rooting for Saw. You're rooting for Jigsaw in this movie because of the atrocities that were done to him. And you actually get a sense of where he's coming from, because this movie chronologically is supposed to take place between 1 and 2. So this is supposed to be Saw...
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
This is supposed to be Saw 1.5 in a way, even though it's the 10th installment. This is supposed to be...
Where'd you get that from?
I have people, I talk to them, I have insider information, and my information is absolutely correct. This is supposed to be in between Saws 1 and 2, and so when you watch this movie, you start to understand where Jigsaw is coming from and why he becomes the monster, quote-unquote, that he is, even though, at the end of the day, it's almost like Dexter.
Yeah.
Dexter's a serial killer who only kills other serial killers. Jigsaw...
Film takes place between Saw and Saw 2.
Thank you. Jigsaw, he only tortures people, but he gives people an option to better their lives. So there's a way to kind of connect with his message in a way. It's a little bit more extreme than maybe some people would take as their approach. However, this might be, outside of the first one, my favorite Saw movie. 100% go see this movie. It will make you cringe, but be prepared for a story because it is a real story and you will enjoy yourself throughout.
Yeah, I actually like this more than the first Saw. I mean, I do slightly remember the first Saw. I don't necessarily need to ever see this one. I would watch again, I think.
Yeah.
Again, it's a really great story and journey. And this was the highest rated Saw of all time. 85%, 50% was Saw number 1. So that should tell you.
In our last podcast, you told me what the pre-rating was basically for this film. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How could it be that high? This is why. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to our number 1 principle, guys, which is story, story, story. When you make a story, you can make 10 installments, and the 10th one can still just be as fresh. And it just shows that they really spent the effort on this story. Again, I think it has a lot to do, I agree, with the fact that Kevin Greutert is both the director and the editor, because he is very well immersed. And then you can sometimes, because you understand the backstory of these characters, you can create something out of nothing. So good job there on the Saw team.
Thank you. Well done, for sure.
Next, we have...
Oh, you know what Saw 10 didn't have? It didn't have a giant ball crashing through the city of Rome, destroying everything.
Right.
So, I mean, it was a good call to cut that from the final picture.
Yeah, so, you know...
What's the next movie?
Fast X does have that. This one does not.
So stupid.
Yeah. Next, we have Reptile, which you can see currently on Netflix.
Yeah.
This is directed by Grant Singer, who also wrote the screenplay, along with Benicia Del Toro, who is also involved in the script in this. Story by. But yes, stars Benicia Del Toro, Justin Timberlake, Eric Bogosian, who's a good character actor. Alicia Silverstone is in this as well. Domenick Lombardozzi, who I love as an actor.
Yeah.
And Michael Pitt. Those are like the main ones. Michael Pitt's from Boardwalk Empire, if you ever see that. Domenick Lombardozzi, he was in Entourage. He's been in tons of stuff. What else was he in?
And Eric Bogosian, we've seen him in Billions. I mean, this is a very heavily casted, well-casted feature. I want to hear your thoughts about this because I have thoughts.
Yeah, I got some great thoughts on this one. So first off, I highly recommend this. Again, I always tend to lean more on favorable opinions on streamer films because, again, in this world we live in, to me it's like free candy. It's like you're already paying for a service. So if you can give me something adequate that I don't feel like I'm wasting my time, I'm in. But let me tell you, what I liked about this film, and again, I'm full transparency here. Again, part of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of streaming films is because you can get easily distracted. But in this film, I find myself pretty glued in and pretty locked in. Once after a certain part of the movie, you're just like, okay, where is this going? Where is this going? And, you know, this movie does a good job of hinting at certain things and other things and really kind of keeping you on your toes in terms of, you know, because it's a murder investigation, right? So this is your classic kind of whodunit type of a movie. And, you know, I think this is where a character, or excuse me, an actor like Benicia Del Toro, I think this is a movie where he shines because he is like a mad poker player when it comes to being on screen. Like he internalizes so much. And this is one of the things I really liked about how this film was both edited and shot is sometimes people spoon feed you emotions and tell you, hey, you should feel this way. You should feel this way. In this film, what I like, I'll let you jump in here. What in this film I liked is they really kind of, sometimes they just had a shot and it would just be like a Benicia Del Toro and he's thinking, but you don't know what he's thinking. And you're just like, wait, what am I supposed to feel about this? Is it this? Is it that? And I love films that do that because it kind of tortures you a little bit and you start questioning your own like thought process and logic. Like, wait, does that mean this? Does that mean this? And it just really adds to the
right. Now, I think a novice film watcher would call this movie a slow burn. Right. And I don't agree with that. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that the slow moments in this movie were absolutely intentional and were so well executed. And Benicio Del Toro, this guy comes in and he always does really amazing work. This reminds me of like his role in Sicario, but more intimate.
Yes!
It's not as...
That's exactly what I was thinking.
He has the same sort of demeanor where I'm not going to give you anything, but I can kill you at any time in Sicario.
Yeah.
Usual Suspects, he's just this guy that you don't understand who's also a killer who can kill you at any moment. His character in this film is very much that sort of... He's cerebral. He has some shit in his past that he needs to overcome or get away from, and that's why he's in this new place with the family. Great to see Alicia Silverstone again. She plays the wife.
I loved her in this role too.
She was very good in this role.
Yeah.
But he was so well thought out, and everything that he does in this movie is intentional, and he does it to perfection. It's one of the better performances I've seen. I enjoyed this movie. I didn't care for several moments in these. I mean, Justin Timberlake did fine. I think his character, you could have put any actor in that role and it would have been just as fine.
I think it's a good role for his resume, if that makes sense. Like, this is not... I agree with you. It's like the role itself could be anybody, but I think add to the fact that it is Justin Timberlake, I think adds to it because...
Helps him because it... Look, I just did this film with Benicio Del Toro and it crushed.
But this is his most... This is the most different role he's ever done. And, he really got to test his acting skills.
And he did well. I mean, if this was a test, I would have given him a B. He would have passed the test with flying colors and he would have done well. I thought he acted appropriately when he was supposed to act that way. Which is weird to say out loud. But he did good.
I know what you're saying. He didn't overact. He didn't underact.
Yes. He wasn't goofy like you see him like on Fallon or you see him on Saturday Night Live.
It was a reserved role.
It was a very reserved, and he played the part to perfection. Yeah. And even the side characters, like I said, Eric Bogosian from Billions, who is the one who gets MS.
Yeah.
And even Domenick Lombardozzi is amazing. Michael Pitt is one of these guys that I remember seeing early on when I was younger in, I don't know, like one of those teen movies that you see when you're growing up as a kid. And I'm 46, so this was probably 100 years ago.
You're 46.
But he is one of these actors that continuously just appears in a movie and is completely transformed from the last time that you've seen him. And in this movie, Michael Pitt really does... I didn't even recognize him at first. And he performs on a level... And there's so much misdirection in this movie on every level. And you just need to stay focused on Benicio Del Toro.
Yeah.
Stay focused on him and watch his journey. And you may guess the ending, but what a journey. I recommend this movie highly. I would go see it 100%. Especially it's on Netflix. Everyone has Netflix.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no excuse. You go and see this movie.
And you made another good point, too. There's a lot of misdirection. This is a very... I almost think it's almost like a very well-crafted offense, like in football. Like, there's a lot of motion. There's a lot of misdirection. We're going to fake this way, go there. We're going to fake jet sweep, then do a play action. Like, there is so much elements to this movie that, it keeps it intriguing, but it also keeps you, like, you just can't, like you're saying, you can't lean one way or the other too much because you're going to get caught up. And so you really just got to again, just like football as a linebacker, you gotta read your keys and stay kind of focused and not lean one way or the other too far because you're getting caught out of position.
Knowing that the ball could be coming from 6 different angles.
Yeah.
And you have to be prepared for all 6. In this film, there's 6, 7, 8 different people that could be the killer in this movie, and you get taken on this story, and it's just really well done. You enjoy it.
Yeah, this was a good one. This is one of my
good streamer. Great streamer.
Great streamer. This is a home run streamer.
Well done.
This is a home run for a streamer. And again, I love these type of movies in general.
And Grant Singer, let's get this right. Majority music videos up until this movie. Mm-hmm. This I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but this might be his directorial debut of a feature film of this magnitude.
Of a major film, yeah, for sure.
Crushed.
Yeah.
Because even visually, beautifully done. Beautifully shot movie.
And his use of sound and music in this film is also really well done. Again,
a
lot of misdirection, a lot of like...
Every 2 seconds that ringtone comes up. And, uh-oh.
It's so good.
Something's going to happen.
So, go check this out. Lastly, on the docket, we have Flora and Son. This is on Apple TV+. My comrade here did not let me know that it was on Apple TV+, or I would have been able to watch that.
Yeah.
So a little miscommunication. I did not see this one, but Pete did, so he'll give you the review on that one.
Yeah, Flora and Son is this is Apple TV+, streaming premium, whatever the name is, at its best, as usual, like we always say on this podcast, and we're not sponsored by them, although we would love to be. Apple+TV, they decide to put out a movie every couple of months, and when they put out something, it is of substance and of value, and the storytelling is amazing, the performances are well done, and the movies are just shot beautifully. This film, I thought when I saw a poster for it, it was a mother and a son. She has a guitar. She tries to connect to her son through a guitar. That is such a broad description of this movie. First of all, it's based out of Dublin, and so everyone talks with these thick Dublin accents. So right away, I'm blown away. I'm like, I didn't anticipate the Dublin aspect of it.
Oh, it's going to make it tough for me, I'm not going to lie.
No. Just put the subtitles on and you'll be able to read along. This girl, Eve Hewson, plays Flora, and then her son
she was in Robin Hood, I believe.
Beautiful girl. Just a beautiful, beautiful woman. And her performance is so heartfelt because she's the partier, she's angry, get out of my face, son. And then how does she then end up connecting to her son through music? And there's the ex-husband who used to be in a band, who toured one time with like some popular band in the UK. That's his claim to fame. And so it's like, I feel very near and dear to this sort of story because, I was in a band growing up and I was going to be a famous rock star and I got to play the cool bars and clubs in Hollywood on Sunset.
Fun fact, I was in Pete's band for one performance.
He was in for one performance. And so there was a dream there. And when it doesn't work out, that's just kind of the way it works out. And you try to deal with your life afterwards. And this is the dealing with your life afterwards. However, there's a side piece where this woman, Flora, wants to learn how to play a guitar to then bond with her son about music. And her guitar teacher is somebody in Los Angeles. She's in Dublin, remember, who's Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who plays an amazingly calm, compassionate, lives in Topanga Canyon, loves playing guitar, loves making music. There is a real message about what music can do, not only to these two as a relationship, but what it can do for people and what it can do for the world. This is a romantic movie without kissing or sex or anything. It's a family redemption story without... It's so hard to encapsulate.
Yeah.
Because it tackles so many different really important values and it encapsulates it in this one little story, and it does it to perfection. It got a 7.2 on IMDb. I would go 8 and above. This movie hit home with me, and I would go see it. If you don't have Apple TV, I would go and do a free trial just to watch this movie one time.
Or splurge.
Or splurge. Yeah, go nuts and spend $6. This is a must-see. I didn't want to see this movie because I've been hearing about it for weeks now, and I finally saw it yesterday, and I finished it today, and one of my favorite movies of the year.
Wow.
By far.
Top 5? Top 10?
Top 10. Maybe 15. Because
just strong.
There's been a lot of great movies this year. But I might give this a sentimental top 15 for sure.
Yeah. Awesome.
Maybe top 10. Stay tuned for our end of the year top 10 rundown show.
We'll probably do one more before We'll probably do one more before the final.
This is a great movie.
Actually, no, we probably won't.
This is a beautiful movie. Beautifully done.
My top 10's already shifted, by the way, just because I've seen some of these movies again.
By the way, there's an aspect of this movie that I feel was very important, is that a lot of the lessons that Joseph Gordon-Levitt from LA and this girl in Dublin that they do via Zoom, they start the scene via Zoom, and then they finish the majority of the scene to the end of the scene in person, where they're almost sitting right next to each other.
Yeah.
And the connections that are made and visualized as you're watching this movie are so powerful. What a well done movie. Just well done.
Well, I'm going to check that out. I'm excited to see
really
that.
well done.
So that's a thumbs up on that one, guys. And that's going to wrap it up for us this week. Next week, there's only one major release, which is Exorcist: The Beginning.
Believer.
Good. Glad I wrote that. I couldn't read my writing, to be honest.
Always love a good Exorcist movie.
Yeah, and we've had a lot apparently this year. But I'm actually looking forward to this one. So we'll see that this week, and stay tuned. If you haven't checked out, also we did a breakdown of an action movie, anatomy of an action movie. Check that out. Check that short clip out. I think you'll enjoy it. It's one of a different type of segment we're trying to add to the show. We got Rocky 4 coming out as well. Podcast, and we'll be back in the studio again to do a few more podcasts on upcoming features to include Anchorman, Wedding Crashers, among others. So Stay tuned. We're going to get back on that one as well. But thank you guys. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Comment below if there's a movie that you guys want us to check out or review. Or if you've got your own review, please post it. We'll even make a graphic out of that.
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And, if you keep posting good comments, maybe we'll bring you aboard, have you sit down and chat with us as well. But with that being said, Pete, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.